All right, let's talk about content marketing. You hear the term everywhere, right? It's a field just packed with buzzwords, but what does it actually mean? And more importantly, what actually works? Today, we're going to cut right through all that noise and give you a clear, simple playbook you can actually use. Let's dive in.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the absolute basics. Then we'll map all of that to something called the buyer's journey. Super important. From there, it's into the playbook itself, a 5-step cycle. We'll also tackle a big question. Should you create your own content or just share others? And finally, we'll get into how to measure everything so you know if it's even working.
Okay, first things first, what are we even talking about when we say content marketing? Before we get into all the fancy strategies, let's make sure we have a really solid foundation. Now, look closely at this definition. The key words here are reputation, awareness, and affinity. Notice what's missing: the hard sell. This isn't about shouting, "Buy my stuff." It's about building a relationship. You create and share things that are genuinely helpful, that build trust. That way, when your audience is finally ready to make a choice, you're the first one they think of. It's a long game, for sure, built on connection. Now, you have to know that not all content is created equal. From a bird's eye view, you can pretty much split everything you create into 2 main buckets: topical and evergreen. So, topical content is all about what's happening right now. It's newsworthy, it ties into a specific moment, but you know what? Its shelf life is pretty short. Think about a post reacting to a big news story. On the other hand, you've got evergreen content. This stuff is built to last. These are your ultimate guides, your foundational how-to articles that are just as relevant next year as they are today. A really solid strategy, as you can probably guess, needs a healthy mix of both. Okay, so we know what content is and we know the different types. But that brings us to the most important question of all. Why are we making any of this in the first place? And the answer, my friends, lies in the buyer's journey. This is our roadmap for guiding our audience with a real sense of purpose. This journey usually breaks down into 5 stages. It's the path someone takes from being a complete stranger to becoming a loyal fan. And the real secret to great content, it's knowing exactly which of these 5 stages you're creating for. Just try to put yourself in your customer's shoes for a second. At first, they're just thinking, who even are you? That's awareness. Then, if you do it right, they move to, that's interesting. Tell me more. That's interest. Pretty soon they're asking, okay, but how do you stack up against the other options? That's consideration. Your content has to have the perfect answer ready for them at every single one of those steps. All right, enough theory. Let's get practical and translate all this strategy into a real-world playbook. We're going to shift gears now from the why to the how with a really simple, repeatable 5-step cycle. I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? It can feel super overwhelming. Where do you even start? Well, the trick is to stop thinking of it as one giant task and start seeing it as a process. And here is that exact process. Step 1, research. 2, plan. 3, create or curate. 4, publish. And 5, measure. But listen, the most important part of this whole thing isn't the boxes. It's the arrows connecting them. See, this is not a one-and-done kind of thing. It's a loop. It's a cycle. What you learn from your measurements in that final step becomes the fuel for your research in the next cycle. This is how you improve. This is how you get smarter and more effective over time. You listen, you learn, and you adapt. It's a constant feedback loop. So let's zoom in a little bit on that 3rd step, create and curate. This is a really fundamental choice you're going to have to make over and over again. Are you going to build something from scratch? Or are you going to find and share something great that somebody else already made? The trade-off here is pretty clear, right? Creating original content takes a lot more time and money, but you own it completely, and it builds your authority like nothing else. Curation, on the other hand, is way faster, and it positions you as a trusted expert who knows what's up in your industry. The smartest folks out there don't just pick one. They find the perfect blend of both. Okay, but all this hard work, creating, curating, publishing, it means absolutely nothing if we don't know if it's actually moving the needle. And that brings us to measurement, the final and, you could argue, the most important part of the whole cycle. Because if you're not measuring, you're really just guessing. This right here is the golden rule. Please, don't forget this. Metrics are totally meaningless without goals. If your goal for a piece of content was brand awareness, you measure one thing. If your goal was to get signups, you measure something completely different. You always have to tie your measurement back to your original why. So what should you actually be looking at? Well, think of it in 4 layers. First, there's reach. That just tells you how many people saw your stuff. Eyeballs. But engagement tells you if any of those people actually cared. Did they like, comment, or share? Then, sentiment digs even deeper. It asks, how did they feel about it? Was it positive, negative? And finally, the bottom line, clicks or conversions. Did they actually take the action you wanted them to?
And really, that's why a content strategy can never be something you just set and forget. I think this quote just nails it. It's an ever-evolving plan. It has to change and adapt as you learn more about your audience and what actually works.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Every single person you're trying to reach is on their own journey. The whole point of great content marketing is simply to show up at the right time, in the right place, with the right answer. So, is your content doing that?